Ladies, today we're going to talk to guys. We'll see how this video does because I think about 2% of my entire audience who watches my videos is ladies. So this one's for the ladies, the few of you who happen to stumble across this video. I want to go over a couple terms I'm going to be using in the video because I might use them slightly differently than mainstream culture uses them. When I say that I am talking to a person, that means that I am talking with them and I'm seeing whether I want to date them or not. This isn't just like, oh, how's your day going? Oh, my day is going great. No, I'm talking to them about big issues. Do I want kids, etc. The big issues that I want to know before I start dating them. I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste their time. So if I am talking to somebody and they don't want kids, I'm going to say, hey, you seem like a really nice person, but I don't think this is going to work because one of my main goals is to have a family, raise children. So if you can't align with me on those goals, then we're going to not make a great match. The next is a date. If I say you go on a date, this does not mean you are dating, but if you go on a date, you're getting to know the person and seeing if you do want to start dating. Obviously dating, then that means that you are in a serious relationship and that you are potentially moving towards marriage. None of this situationship stupidity. A situationship is like, you're like talking, but you're not dating, but like you're not really talking to other people, but nobody wants to define the relationship. That is stupid, and don't get into one of those. I often think that girls, when they are talking to a guy, think that they are being very, very obvious, when in fact they're being quite subtle. And let's be honest, guys are dense. I would know, I'm one. Guys are dense, and we often don't know when you're trying to get our attention. So here's how to talk to a guy. First of all, whatever you think is super obvious is probably not. Guys are dense. When I was in high school, there was a girl and she liked me. I had zero idea. Zero idea. Until all my friends started pointing it out and they're like, dude, she likes you. And then eventually when I was looking for it, then I noticed it. Oftentimes, guys are already way denser than you probably expect. And then number two, guys don't want to read things into things. Sometimes girls are just being friendly and we don't want to take that as, oh, they're actually flirting with me or anything like that. We don't want to read things into it. We don't want to be a total creep. We want to be conservative with how we're reading the room. One of the biggest things that you can do is just be in that guy's vicinity, like all the time. Guys do eventually get it, usually if you're in the vicinity all of the time. Another thing like that girls already do is touch your arm. That's a great thing. A great thing that you can do is compliment them. As a guy, you don't get many compliments. Girls get complimented all the time about their clothes or what they did with their hair or whatever, comparative to guys. Now, I know not every girl is complimented as much as the next, but as a general rule, guys don't get complimented, period. On the flip side, girls can come across as too harsh. I know that doesn't sound like girls, but girls can be quite mean. It's true. Now take notes. I was talking to a girl at an event I went to, and she did exactly what you're supposed to do. We started off the conversation. She knew I was obviously interested. I talked to her for well over an hour. If a guy is talking to you for long periods of time, he probably likes you. That's probably a pretty good sign, or at least he's somewhat interested. I had met this girl a couple times on occasion, but I had never talked to her in depth at all. So I talked to her a little bit, and then now I'm talking to her for an extended period of time, well over an hour. We talked, we had a good conversation, there was banter back and forth, the chemistry was good, and then at the end of the conversation, about 3 minutes before we had to leave the event, she politely mentioned in passing that she had a boyfriend. Now, that is the way to do it. If you really want to help guys, don't shoot them down. Don't shoot them down. If a guy comes up to you and he's being a nice dude, obviously if he's being a total creep, that's one thing. But if the dude is just being a nice guy and wanting to talk to you, have a nice conversation with you, maybe he's seeing if he wants to, maybe potentially ask you out. But don't just totally shoot him down being like, heck no, sorry, I'm not going to talk to you, weirdo, because I have a boyfriend. That's not helping anybody. Have a nice conversation with him, and then she politely mentioned in passing that she had a boyfriend. I got the signal. And yet none of us were humiliated. Nobody was embarrassed. But she mentioned in passing that she had a boyfriend in passing. So I got the cue I didn't feel embarrassed, she didn't feel embarrassed, and also it didn't get to the point where I had, asked her to coffee or something, and then she has to tell me no because she has a boyfriend. So both of us are saved the embarrassment, and neither one is left out hanging to dry or anything. Head back under some trees or something, it's raining. What you don't want to do is totally just shoot him down. Now obviously, if the dude's being weird or anything, then yeah, eventually you might need to say, hey, please don't talk to me, whatever. But try the first approach first. There's no reason to totally destroy the confidence of that guy. He came and talked to you. He obviously thought you were, somewhat interesting or pretty or something. But there's no reason to totally shoot down his confidence, being like, heck no, weirdo, I have a boyfriend. Even if a guy comes off as confident, I'll be the first one to say it's scary talking to a girl. Nobody ever wants to be totally shot down like that. That is like a guy's worst fear, is to be totally brutally shot down like that. Let him down a little slower. Guys do have feelings too. They might not show it, but I guarantee they do have feelings. Nobody likes to be shot down. You probably, if you were going to talk to a guy, you probably wouldn't want him to pop up to you and say, heck no, sorry, I have a girlfriend, just totally out of the blue if you were really nervous going to talk to them. Even guys who are confident are still nervous, still got butterflies. They're not as stone-faced as they may seem. One of the best questions that you can ask a person, in my opinion, this is like a gateway drug to all the questions. Best question, my favorite question to ask when you are talking to somebody or whether you are thinking you want to date them is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is a gateway to a plethora of questions. I know a big thing on people's minds when they're talking to somebody was a big priority for people is they want to have kids. Now, some people do not want kids, and that is their own choice, and they can make whatever choice they want. But me personally, I want kids, which means that when I'm talking to a girl, I want somebody who wants kids, and I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste your time. When you ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They'll probably give you the normal run-of-the-mill answer, but then you can also say, hey, do you see kids in your future? Do you see this in your future? Can you see yourself living on a farm? Can you see yourself living in X, Y, Z? It is a gateway drug to all of the important questions that you want to ask before you probably start seriously dating the person. I think oftentimes people jump into a relationship before they've done their homework. Now, I'm not saying be so picky that you're gonna rule out half the guys. Something that I see on the internet all the time, and I don't necessarily think this is a rule for all girls, but some girls want a dude that's 6 foot. Let me tell you, most of us aren't 6 foot. Heck, I'm not 6 foot. The average height for a male in America is 5'9". And when you have if you're a girl that's like 5 foot, why do you need a dude that's 6 foot? I totally understand if you want a guy that's taller than you. I totally get that one. But for a 5 foot girl to say they want a 6 foot guy, check your standards. You are low. If you say I'm only going after guys that are 6 foot, you are shrinking your dating pool so far to where, and you're only getting rid of guys not based on the content of their character, but over something superficial that they cannot control. There was that meme that went around saying, I want a guy that's 6'5" in finance and has a trust fund. And somebody did the math, and the people that were, age like 18 to 30, how many people were in that range was like 2 people in the entire US. So, check your standards. Now, I'm not saying lower your standards to where it's just a pile of trash either. I'm saying have standards, but pick which standards are more important. Is the height of the guy more important than the content of his character? Or is the content of his character more important than something superficial that he can't control? Don't worry, this isn't some double standard. I'm talking about basically the same principles in the videos with the guys. Have your big issues. If one of your big issues as a woman is you want to have kids, then make that known. And if the dude doesn't want kids, then say sayonara. The reason you talk about these things before you start dating is you get them out of the way. Then nobody's heartbroken. I was talking to a girl, and we hit it off. We had a lot of great conversation. We agreed on a lot of things, but religiously, we didn't agree. She was Catholic, I'm a Christian, and there were several doctrinal differences that we couldn't get past. And we both came to the conclusion at the same time, and we both said, hey, I'm sorry, this isn't gonna work. I really like you, but this isn't gonna work. And neither of us were left brokenhearted. I was a little sad. She was very nice. But if you get this stuff out of the way before you start in a relationship and getting your feelings involved, it's a lot easier and it saves you a whole lot of heartbreak. I have talked to many more girls than I have dated seriously because I want to say it's more efficient, but I don't think efficient is the right word. I don't think I should waste their time. I don't want to waste my time either. Another girl I briefly talked to, I didn't even talk to her for much because I found out quite early on that she really doesn't want to have kids. And that's a deal breaker for me. But I didn't waste, I don't know if waste is the right word, but I didn't spend tons of time in a relationship, like a year, 6 months or whatever, and then only come to find out, oh, she doesn't want to have kids. And then you don't have this weird limbo of like, well, our goals don't align, but we're dating. Find somebody with like-minded goals. Now, what I'm gonna say here might be unpopular, but hear me out and let me get to the end of it before you totally chop off my head. I think oftentimes girls take too much of a back seat. They say that, oh, they want the guy to be the leader in the relationship. They want the guy to ask them out. They want the guy to pay on the first date. Great. But at the same time, you have to reciprocate. If a guy is flirting with you and you don't flirt back at all, I can tell you what's gonna happen. He's gonna leave eventually. Guys will try to go after you for only so long. Eventually, when you don't reciprocate at all, the guy's gonna move on because he's gonna go try to find somebody else. I know a couple girls and they're like, oh, guys are just so terrible. Like I can't ever get a date or anything. But then they say what their flirting is. It's like all they did was look at the guy. They aren't trying to spend tons of time with them. They aren't bantering back and forth with them. If you don't reciprocate at all, of course the guy's gonna move on. If you give the guy all the wrong signals, of course he's gonna leave. Most guys are, looking pretty carefully and they're trying to, not be total creeps. So if you don't give him any signals back and say, hey, yeah, I'm somewhat interested or something, then the guy's gonna say, okay, I haven't gotten any signals back. It's time for me to move on and try to talk to another girl. I knew a girl and she supposedly liked me, but then when it came to actually talking to me or texting me, she hardly talked to me and she hardly texted me. Now, I'm not saying you have to be attached at the hip, but if I text something, I would like to be responded to in at least 2 to 3 business days. Hopefully before that. Eventually, you gotta say, okay, it's enough. I'm gonna have to move on to the next person. And the same thing applies to you. If you're flirting with a dude, if you're actually flirting with him, if you're actually being obvious, I'm not talking the most subtlety of subtleties, and then you're not getting any reciprocation back. If you're actually flirting with him, and if you're flirting back and forth with each other, and then he never wants to go any further, and he obviously gets that you're flirting with him, and he flirts back, and then he never asks you out or anything, eventually you guys have to say, well, it's enough. I have to move on. Don't just get stuck with a guy because he's giving you attention. Another thing that is what it is, but often women want the guy to make more than them. I understand it. But also, when you get to be 30 and you become a doctor as a woman, and now you make a lot of money, and now you want a guy that makes more than you, no, that shrunk your dating pool. If you get married young, guess what? Neither of you make any money. And also, I think if you get married young, start dating young, you get to finish growing up with that person. Well, I'm gonna have an entire video about marriage and aligning your goals and everything like that a little later on. I've talked to a ton of people, including pastors, counselors, and a bunch of married couples that have been married 50 plus years to get a bunch of advice. So I'm working on that video here upcoming soon, so stay tuned for that. You want to talk to the guys. You want to put yourself in their vicinity often. You want to be actually talking with them, bantering back and forth, maybe some jokes. And be fairly obvious. Guys are kind of a nail. You gotta kind of, slap it right on the top of their head for them to sometimes get it. Because guys number one, are already just dense. And then number two, they don't want to read anything into it either. As a general rule, we don't want to totally get our hearts broken. The last thing a guy wants to do is ask out a girl and for her to tell him no. What's even worse is saying yes and then telling him no later. I've had this happen to me several times, and let me tell you, it's not a fun experience. I've asked out several different girls, And they have said yes, they'd love to go get lunch with me. I'm like, wonderful, cloud 9. And then the day before the date, when we were supposed to go out, they text me and say, oh, I can't do it. I'm busy. I'm running errands. I'm like, is that like the equivalent to washing your hair? I can't do it. I'm busy. I'm running errands. I'm like, okay, hey, that's fine. I'd love to reschedule. And they're actually, no, I don't really want to reschedule. If you don't have the intention of going out with the guy, don't say yes. Don't just because he asks you does not mean you have to say yes. But if you actually like the guy, even if you don't know that much about the guy, saying yes is not a bad thing. Just because you go on one date does not mean that you are dating. It doesn't hurt to say yes. If you think that this guy is a nice guy, if you like him somewhat, obviously, if there are red flags, then just say no. But don't say yes and then totally back out. That's it's not very nice, really. It takes a lot of courage for a guy to ask out a girl. And then when she says yes, you're on cloud 9, and then she turns around and says, actually, never mind. Yeah, that's not a very nice feeling. And I doubt that you would like that to happen to you. You don't want a guy to ask you out and then the day before actually say, actually, never mind. I'm good. And she says, oh, what happened? She's like, oh, I'm running errands. Can we reschedule? No, I'm good. So you wouldn't want to have the same thing happen to you. So don't do the same thing to the opposite sex. And my last thing that I'll say is be intentional. Be intentional with the guys you talk to. Just because the guy is appealing doesn't mean that he's the right one. Just because he's a bad boy doesn't mean that you actually want to date him. So talk to the guys that have good intentions, and have good intentions with talking to the right guy.
Something I forgot to talk about is where to find a guy. I'm underneath the carport and stuff because it's raining like crazy now. But a great place to find a guy, especially if you are religious, is at a place where young people like yourself are gathering. I go to a Christian young adults group. If you're of a different faith, then find a place where those people are gathering. It's one of the best places because it means you get like-minded individuals that are your age. Okay, back to the pre-scheduled programming.
Now, this isn't my normal kind of video. I don't normally specifically gear my videos toward the ladies, but I thought that I would make a guy version and a girl version of this video. So if you're a dude, I don't know why you watched to the complete end, but there's a guy version. And if you guys liked this video, consider checking the video out up here. But other than that, I'll see you guys later. I guess you girls. I'll see you girls later.